reach over here. Hello, microphone. I'll edit that out of this video. Reach over here and grab this stuff. Everybody wanted to talk about this in the comments. I showed it in a video like a week ago. You can get it on Etsy or eBay. You can type in Faraday fabric, EMF blocking fabric. You can't see it, but if you actually hold it up to the light on the one side, the actual separation on the copper mesh that's woven in here is a spacing of about like 1.2 millimeters. And this is, of course, what they sew into. It's relatively soft. Sew into wallets and stuff so somebody can't scan your cords. RFID blocking technology. It's all the exact same thing. It's Faraday mesh. And this, of course, ties into this video. And I love making interesting videos that no one else has made any video on that particular topic. And it applies to absolutely everything in life, pretty much. And I'm shocked that I haven't made a video about this. I've talked about signal over noise, and of course it's a ratio in photography for years. The same thing is 100% applicable in metamechanics. That's my little created word for the metaphysics of the mechanics of metaphysics, or metamechanics. Not actual real word, made up word, however hyperlogical. In other words, the mechanics of metaphysics. But this actually blocks out EMF. Interestingly enough, you can actually try this out. This is like 4 feet by 15 feet. You can take a nap underneath this, and I've actually done that before. And 100% undeniability is the fact. Let me put this off to the side here. It's kind of expensive, but I mean, like this particular length of fabric would make, oh man, like a couple hundred wallets worth for RFID blocking. Every microsecond, not my opinion or feeling or belief, every person on Earth is bombarded by no less than 1 million different frequencies. You have cellular, radio, AM, FM, radio, satellite networks on the from the 400 megahertz all the way up to the 3 gigahertz bands. It's mind-boggling. It would actually scare the heck out of everybody if they were able to see what is penetrating, their mind and brain absolutely every microsecond. And 100% convinced, because the actual only radio antenna of a biological system is water. Is that people are I'm going to use the word nutty. That's a more favorable word today, because of people are to blame for their own actions, of course. But we're consuming things that we shouldn't be consuming. Like mac and cheese, soda pop, and then I think it was an Navajo Indian said at the end times that human beings would literally be consuming and poisoning themselves. And we're not only doing that from the things we take in. Yes, I know I'm out of shape, I'm not stupid how I'm going to eat this apple later on. These are really good. By the way, these are not nature's apples. These were genetically engineered by humans. So even this is not that great. It's a Honeycrisp, and these are really, really sweet, particularly the ones that I picked up. And that's not natural. Nature's real apples are nowhere near that sweet. So that's a bunch of engineered apples. I shouldn't even be eating that. I kind of found them irresistible because they're so sweet and tasty. So even when we think that we're eating healthy, we're still not eating healthy. I know where I've actually failed on that. But getting into interference and cancellation, and this is applicable to everything, and this is actually an important lesson. It's something that, whatever you think of this video, I guarantee you that there is a pi portion of the spectrum that I'll be talking about in this video that is applicable and important for you to think about. But anyway, yes, every microsecond is 1 million plus, at the very minimum, frequencies that are passing absolutely through us. Actually, taking a nap or sleeping under a Faraday cage is no different than going into a deep cave, which I used to be a cave diver. It's very stilling when your mind has absolute clarity and it's not being bombarded by noise, because noise is a destructive interference. Destructive interference is no different than attenuation or cancellation. It's like turning the radio down. What's the difference between noise and like taking your favorite radio station and turning it down to the point where you really, it's your favorite song, but you can't, you can't groove to it and you're not enjoying it because you can barely hear it. And the same thing is true of our consciousness, which of course is machination of our mind. And anyway, this the health effects and how people can't think clearly anymore. And education is to blame. The horrible foods that we eat are to blame. There's there's a million things that are to blame, but eliminating out this interference in our body and the water, which is, everything is sympathetic resonance. I don't know if you know what sympathetic resonance is. Harmonic sympathetic resonance, such that it will vibrate to noise, and then of course you have attenuation of the signal. I used to talk about this quite often in videos on teaching on photography, dynamic range, and saturation. This, of course, is why flash photography is so incredibly important, and it just makes every image pop, no matter what lens or what camera is used, for example. But the same is true of our mind. You're going to take the exact same photograph with the same camera and the same lens. For example, flash photography, it looks worlds better. I mean, it does things that you cannot adjust in post-production. You take the exact same model, same camera, same lens, take the flash off, dial up the ambient lighting as much as you can, where it's really bright. It's still, nothing will beat 1/10,000th of a second of xenon flash tube photography, because this is where the signal absolutely and totally obliterates and dominates the noise. So you could have correct exposure. This is a simplex example. And two identical photographs, and they've both been exposed the same, but they'll both look radically different because there is no compensating for 1/10,000th of a second of a xenon flash bulb. And all flash photography is the same. Doesn't matter how expensive or how cheap it is. It's xenon, flash tube exposure. Now getting into the other factors of signal versus noise and how this is applicable to every aspect of your life and my life. It's not just about, trying to take a nap underneath the EMF blocking fabric, of course. The more wisdom, of course, somebody has, the more ability that we actually have to have a bandpass filter in our mind and your mind. I've been talking about recently, I've been talking about it for years. The best thing anybody can do, on top of course, say reading the 10 best collections like the Periphesian, the Enneads of Plotinus, the Didaskalikos, the works of Plato, Plotinus, Iamblichus. You don't have to read all of those, but people had a shortcut to education. The best thing anybody could do is actually learning about fallacies. When someone actually has a sharp mind and they do have wisdom, it's like actually having a bandpass filter in our mind. A bandpass filter is basically, I can make it really simple, it's like closing the doors so that you're only letting a certain spectrum of what you want in, and you're blocking out all the garbage. It's kind of like your house. You got a lock on your house because you only let your friends and relatives in, and maybe the FedEx guy or the UPS guy that's delivering your fruit basket, but everything else is kept out. So this is a simplification of a bandpass filter. One great example, and this of course is a cheap radio. This is like a $58 radio from China, and of course it depends on what the signal gain is, and of course how good the antenna is, and how well it's able to pass out what is slightly above it or slightly below it, or a harmonic interference. It is the case that certain frequencies, you actually learn this as a person to go for your ham radio license, that you could be broadcasting on one frequencies, but it actually has harmonic echoes at certain steps that, say, might interfere with what it is you're trying to listen to. So you'd have two identical radios that are tuned into the exact same frequency. The cheap radio, there'd be tons of noise. Like I was doing that up at the cabin. Had a cheap little AM FM shortwave radio. It's like a little $50 radio. Realistic. I remember Radio Shack radio. Tons of noise. I mean, the actual signal's coming in really good, but I mean, it itself is just a ultra simplistic radio. So you have all this noise bleeding in, and cheap radios are actually like that. Expensive radios, you could have put the exact same antenna on it, for example, so that at the antenna you have the same amount of gain, so you have the same signal to noise ratio, but you have a bandpass filter that it clearly attenuates out things that are undesirable. Kind of like having a gatekeeper at your mind. It's actually exactly like having a gatekeeper at your mind. So being able to, and this is, I keep telling this to people and I don't think people really get it. By the way, people keep asking about the fallacies. It's called the Greater Learning Courses. It's a tiny little booklet. It's only like 30 pages or so. Type in like Great Learning Courses on fallacies. And there's like 36 audio MP3 lessons on learning about fallacies. These are copyrighted and they're available at the Great Learning Courses. And there's other people that actually have these on fallacies. But actually having that is top 3 best tools anybody could have in their mind. And it operates exactly, and I'm going to show you why this is so important. I'm getting the key point here. Actually makes your mind vis-a-vis wisdom and intellect operate like a bandpass filter. One of the big things is that people will waste their lives on is like someone will read a whole book. To me it's mind-blowing. But to other people it's just like that's how they work. Most people, they'll like read 3/4 of a whole book, and for them to determine this isn't a good book. It's like you read this whole book. Why did it take you the whole book to find out, the realization? To which, to me, I could find out in 30 seconds, and I do mean literally 30 seconds, if it's a good book or not. It's like, well, I just had to read the whole book before I could find out. And time is short for everybody. What if, and by learning fallacies, this is so incredibly important, people's minds today are filled with nothing but noise. Remember when books were rare? I'm actually old enough to remember that. I mean, not rare, but I mean, for you to get a book published, it had to have been important and at least moderately intelligent, if not wise. Today, everybody is self-publishing any old garbage that you could possibly think of. Every Joe Blow. Then, of course, well, that's great. Now there's like a gazillion more books now than there were 30, 40 years ago. Don't have to be physical hard copies. They could actually be digital copies. But how then are you able to discern things? I can actually go to the university library, take me 30 seconds to determine whether the book is looking at for another 30 seconds. Man, that saves so much time, you can't even believe it. Knowing fallacies is that type of bandpass filter, weeding out nonsense. I used to debate all sorts of topics of complicated, abstruse, higher intellectual pinpoint nuances of monistic metaphysics, like the definition, meaning, and context of anatta. And you go on these boards, and of course boards online are, like the epicenter of all things that are noise. You have 99.9% everybody is just a lip flapper. They are intellectual noise. People have the same issue with watching the news. The news is nothing but lies. They're all repeating the same stuff. Everything from listening to friends and weeding out noise, or reading a book, being able to determine within 30 seconds or a minute if that book is worth, pitching or actually looking further into. Because now there's so many books. People are like, how do I know? I want to find out about topic A, Y, Z, and there's like 1,000 books on the same topic on Amazon or in my local library. How am I able to determine which is the one that's good? And there are ways to do that. And this is literally just a bandpass filter of the mind. Knowing fallacies is that filter. Weeding out nonsense. Imagine how much easier people's lives would be if they're able to weed out nonsense, weed out the noise, have a bandpass filter, which is wisdom and insight, to be able to see things clearly. There's all these filters that we don't have in our life that we need to have. Like super rich people, they have, or like Hollywood people, not that I care about Hollywood people, they have representatives that they weed out the garbage. These are paid for bandpass filters, like some mega $1 million movie star, whatever. They have a paid both mouthpiece and a bandpass filter. They're like, I'm going to look at this first before I send it on to, Hollywood so-and-so. We all need that. Nobody talks about this in high school. Nobody talks about this in college. But we need that to weed out information, weed out fallacies, lies, and garbage, and make our lives easier. Some people will pour over a mountain of information over a week or two that I could have found in an hour or so. And I do mean that almost literally. Wisdom, of course, is to hear the signal. Go like a board online, type in any board, like a car board or a metaphysics board or a philosophy board, whatever it is you're interested in. There's a board that of people are all interested in the same stuff. You know as well as I do, because you've been there, whatever board it is. 99, and I recently saw a thread like this. There were like 15 pages of noise. Some people will read every one. Like, that's okay, that guy didn't really say anything. A bunch of sophists and naysayers and lip flappers and logomachy. Logomachy is a fancy word meaning lip flapping. And people will waste their lives trying to get to a nugget or a kernel of true information. I mean, I go through all 13 of those pages, and I did in a matter of just a few minutes. Like, boom, oh, that's important. Trash, 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 trash. Oh, okay, I get that. Okay, I take that in. Being able to discern that just makes life so much easier. It makes life so much better. I don't care if you despise me. You know what I'm telling you right now, look into my eye. It is 100% undeniably the truth. We all need that type of band filter in our life of the people that we talk to, or friends, anything that you see on the fool box, i.e. the TV, meaning news, whatnot, going on boards. Some people will give their opinion on someone once told me that I was making a declarative statement about something, and someone said, well, that's your opinion. I said, technically it was not an opinion, it was a demonstrable, empirical, objective fact. But even if you thought it was an opinion, i.e. doxa, and it wasn't, some opinions are worth a lot more than others. And the ability to see if someone is just like an armchair, genius, they're just typing on the keyboard from their armchair. They don't really know anything. They've never done anything. Everything they know is just like theory and garbage. And then you find, someone that really knows what they're talking about. Well, I've done it, and this happened, and this is what you should do. And it's like, wow, this is a person you should listen to. Some people will spend just a tremendous amount of time trying to find that. So wisdom is the ability, of course, to hear the noise and actually block out the naysayers, the lip flappers, those into logomachy. Humans, of course, there's way more humans now than there's ever been. Not that there's anything wrong with that, okay? Creates so much noise. Ignorance is noise. Remember when I was talking about, and it's true, like I was talking about like rich neighborhoods versus poor neighborhoods. The rich neighborhoods are pin quiet. Okay, you don't hear anything. Maybe a cat or a dog barking, maybe. And poor neighborhoods or ignorant neighborhoods, it's just so noisy. The sirens are blaring, whether that be police and or ambulance, and somebody blasting music. It's like, hey, this is where all the ignorant or monetarily challenged people are at, because it's noisy. You could be blind. It's like, yeah, this is the undesirable part of town. It's like, you're blind. How do you know? It's like, because it's so noisy. Anyway, human beings created an enormous amount of noise, and actually metaphysical extrapolation of being able to dissect out that noise to lead a happier and more simple life. I mean, there's many things I've failed at in life, like being healthy and fit, and having a wife and kids. I've failed at all of that. I did have a wife, but she died of cancer. But I have definitely succeeded 100% on having a bandpass filter in my mind of, just think of everything it affects in life. The ability to see fallacies, to dissect and see through news. things your so-called friends say. Boards, like, I'm interested in radios or apples or cameras. I'm going to join board so-and-so. It's 99% noise. People are just lip-flapping armchair geniuses that don't actually know anything. Because people will senselessly blather on about a topic. Kind of like what I'm doing right now in this video. Actually, outside of these videos, by the way, I'm never talking at all. I'm always in deep thought. You really think I'm talking at all when I'm not making these videos and talking? The answer, of course, is no. Anyway, destructive interference. All this noise is destructive interference, but it's only destructive interference is if you have a mind like a cheap little, maybe you've had one of those little cheap $10 radios when you were young, probably, maybe not, depends on how old you are. It's like, you know, the radio station was like 3 miles away, you could see it. But even though you're tuned into the station, because it's such a cheap radio, there's just tons of static and noise in. It's like, I can see the station, it's right over there. But the radio is so cheap, it just lets all this noise in. And nobody in high school or elementary school or college taught you about, and this is all SNR, signal to noise ratio. It's the ratio of can you hear what is true and real and helpful over the noise, the blather, the lip flapping of, you know, your common human being. Destructive interference. Same is true of life and liberation, because false embodiment and misery is modulation. It is said that liberation, and this is undeniably true, it's the logical premise of true metaphysics, is that the elimination of frequency and wavelength of false identification is, of course, subjective synthesis, i.e. wisdom, and therefore, in its fruition, liberation. Liberation of what, by what, and from what, and due to what? Due to wisdom, from false identification. Anyway. I love it when people say, like your tone. This is also true of fallacies. When someone says, and these are like there's 5 or 6 things, I need to make a video on it, of the things I absolutely can't stand. One of them is, I don't like your tone. When someone says that, what they mean is that everything you said is right, but I don't like the way you said it, and I can't refute the facts and demonstrable logic and evidences that you've given, but I'm just going to say I don't like the way you said it. It's like, they basically are saying everything you said is factual, but I have nothing to refute it, so I'm just going to say I don't like the way you said it. I don't like your tone. That is a form of noise. Like, if you have a sharp mind, you weed people out like that. You shun them. It's like, here's a person that is always telling you they don't like your tone. I have shunned them. Permanently shunned them. They don't exist to me anymore. I will never talk to them. I won't see them. These people in the quest for wisdom, facts, logic, and rational insight in life. These people are noise, and I have a sharp mind that I will not suffer that rack and rabble. And that is rack and rabble. Lies, of course, there's frequency modulation, and there's amplitude modulation. Of course, amplitude and frequency modulation, i.e. wavelength. Lies are almost exactly like frequency modulation. Frequency modulation is the highest form of signal interference or noise that's blocking you from seeing things. You know, it's like, say, how do you know the politician is lying? Because their lips are moving. In other words, they're always lying. Yelling, emotions, irrationality is the lesser form of noise interference. That's almost exactly identical to amplitude modulation. So lies, obfuscation, sophistry is exactly like frequency modulation, which is its own form and worst form of destructive interference. And destructive interference is no different than saying, man, there's a lot of noise on this station, I can barely make out what they're saying. In other words, they keep you from getting to the truth of anything. This is the reason why people need a bandpass filter, due to wisdom and insight and understanding and recognizing fallacies in their life. Yelling, emotions, irrationality, not sophistry. There's a laundry list. I can make a long laundry list of these. I need to make a video about like the 6 things I can't stand when people says, people says, I'll edit that out of this video. People say, tone, I don't like your tone. People talk about waves. They use the word meditation, which of course they always use it incorrectly. Hey, meditation, meditate, you know. This is a word that's undefined. It's not my opinion that it's undefined. It is undefined. So I'll never use that word because it's just, it's blather talk. It's like saying, meow meow. It's like, what? Well, so anyway, I've talked about that before countless times about meditation. So I'd like to hear your position on this. Everything I said in this video, whether you like it or not, is 100% accurate. And I made a video about SNR, signal-to-noise ratio, and it applies to virtually every spectrum of life, and also to transcendence from, say, wisdom, insight, fallacies, news, friends, going onto boards or forums, which are really, really bad. They've always been bad, now they're really bad. It's just a bunch of lip flappers. It's like sticking your head in a noise machine. You know, but if you have a sharp mind, you can wade through it. I was like, I'm going to look for the salient nugget of intelligent, rational, wise statement made by somebody that knows what they're talking about. Noise, 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 noise. Oh, there it is. Let me look for some more nuggets of wisdom and truth. Noise, 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 noise. Lip flapping, complaining, sophistry, lip flapping, complaining, blather talk, ad hominems. It really is the best tool anybody could have in life. And when you have that toolbox in your head, and you are not given that toolbox in your head in college or high school, it makes life better. I don't know if you need to research signal-to-noise ratio. I think it's abundantly simple. It's signal versus noise, i.e. truth, insight, wisdom, and you know, the immovable pillar of truth. When in ancient Egyptian that would be the chet, the immovable pillar, or the spine of the absolute, on and on and on, versus just noise and interference. Things where people or people collectively and or demons are trying to keep you from coming to the truth of things. Anything you seek in life, and man, it makes things so much better. I've been through some of the biggest libraries in the country, and man, I could whip through hundreds of books in really, really quick time looking for, like, here's a gem. Other people, they'll like check out one book, go home and read the whole, this is no good. Next. Life is too short for that. Thank you so much for watching. If you ever like these videos, any donations always warmly welcome. Send me an email if you have any questions. Lux Veritas.